Hello, Lucie Treacher.
Hello again, Todd.
Thanks for joining me for part 3 of these game audio deep dives, looking at more Monument Valley 3 stuff. Lucy was the collaborator for Monument Valley 3. We kind of pretty much split the audio and music for this game fairly down the middle, and both kind of contributed to it fairly equally, and we had our individual levels that we kind of owned to do all the sound design and music for. And I really wanted to do one of these videos that focuses more on music and music interaction in the game, and I think this one of your levels, level 4, was definitely probably the best case of really going to town with that, right, and using the interactive music hierarchy in Wwise.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, this is the Origata Atelier.
Lovely pronunciation.
Some Japanese French.
Glad you said that and not me.
Yeah, so this is, it's got this very papery aesthetic, and the artist sort of went to town on that, and but I think even more so trying to translate that in the audio and amp that up even more. And often you'll hear like pencil scratching and writing and things, even if you can't see it. So it's just creating that multi-dimensional papery world.
Yeah, it really pushes the tactility of that, and it's all got that nice kind of papery texture over the whole level as well. I think it'd be really nice to just play through it and sort of highlight all the stuff that's going on while we're doing that, and then you've got the Wwise projects and stuff there, and we can have a look at that as well.
For sure. Yes, quite stark, quite close pencil scratching, which Todd thought was the dog panting when I originally put it in.
I'm not sure about the dog panting at the beginning of this level. But these title screens are so cool though, because it gives us this chance to just set something up, and the combination of the whatever we do on the title screen and then the button press is this nice kind of little pre-reveal moment for each level, and I love the way they look as well.
Totally, yeah, that encapsulating the sound in that button of the level. So you can hear like all the footsteps are a slightly different papery sound, and we've switched out these grip knobs, these handles, with bespoke sounds for this level. You could hear when I came through that door, this extra musical layer being introduced.
So you the moment you hit that button, you start getting the first of those little percussive piano polyrhythms, and then you went through the door and you introduced another one, and then am I right in saying that when you cross the kind of bridge of that rotating platform, then there's another layer is getting introduced? So yeah, yes. When I first played this, I thought that was just happening over a time period, but actually it's so granular that each of those little polyrhythms that we're now hearing have been introduced by specific player actions and triggers.
Yeah, for sure. This one's got like an invisible trigger on this door. So I'm just jumping to the next musical state essentially. And I'm going to go through this lovely papery door. So transitioning to another musical segment now.
So it's a lovely hook, those piano chords. It's worth saying as well that this track was one of the first demos you did for Monument Valley 3, right? When you and it's so nice that like I think it encapsulates the excitement about working on the game in some ways. Like I always find that when I'm on a new project and like the first few ideas you do, then if you're really excited about it, then there's something to be kind of captured there, and yeah, there's clearly totally. I can hear the sort of enthusiasm and excitement in this. obviously versus the jaded music that we were both making, but the end of the project.
Well, speak for yourself. No, you're right. I think there's a vibe. It's a quite nice moody vibe, but it's also that gentle ticking, which I think sort of helps you through this level anyway.
It works really well, and this is like a complete deconstruction of that piece of music to be fully interactive.
Yeah, so you can hear now when I pull this dragger, you're going to hear how this dragger's affecting the musical layers.
So like a dynamic mix.
Yeah, it's connected with this global parameter, which is on this dragger. And this global parameter is connected to the music layers, but I'll show you in Wwise in a bit. You can hear how, it's bringing out different layers in the musical track.
Really cool.
And that's, we now jump to another musical track. So you can hear that bass coming through.
So the vertical slider there is dynamically mixing layers in a track, but after you've hit the button, then those layers have actually switched up, so it's moving you through the composition even more. Again, when I first played this, I didn't realise that necessarily. I saw that heard that the slider was changing the music, but the change in the section of the tracks happening as a result of that button. So it's like super granular.
It was quite an intricate process. Like also transitioning between, like making sure that the layers sounded good when you were transitioning between, and at any speed, because you don't know how fast the player's going to be like. So it's having that all in mind. So you go into this like hiatus state, and when you reach the bottom of the stairs, they sort of papery curl up, and we're now in this slightly pared down musical state. And if I hit the buttons, now we're going to gradually build up. I wanted to create this sort of build up to the end of the level because it's quite a hard puzzle, and you sort of gradually start to reintroduce layers. You can hear introduce that beat. So you can remember what to do.
And those more dramatic kind of cello staccato things, which sound really cool. I love those. Like it's kind of amping up the drama in terms of the arc of the level. Then, as you said, it's a more difficult puzzle, so it's sort of like moving you through that kind of narrative arc, if you like, of the level because I took a while to solve this puzzle first time for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But that's totally something to bear in mind with the music, like not getting boring, and that's why I'm introducing these different layers, like almost like as rewards as you get closer to the finish. Final satisfying tear.
The tear in reality.
Maybe I'll stop there for now.
I mean, essentially it's a mandala. I mean, maybe just see a bit of the mandala sequence because it hooks into the video that I did before, and the kind of tonal tie-in that this, that again, that little kind of whistly note we've got there. And all of the intro to that sequence was adjusted to be in key with all of the music and tonality that Lucie had set up. Cool.
Love how this changes colours. Yeah.
Cool. Should we have a look at the Wwise project?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, there's lots to talk about. I mean, do you want to have a look at the music hierarchy?
Maybe let's look at the music first.
Songs?
Yeah, I mean, it's worth saying that I didn't really use interactive music hierarchy a lot in Monument Valley 2, and I used it fairly sparingly in 3 as well. I think I just didn't feel like the sort of time-based transitions that it gives you all this power with was something that I felt sort of necessary to explore. But it's really cool that you did, because you've kind of really gone to town with stuff like this, and and sort of taking it almost to another level in terms of the feeling of like moving through a composition with the player's actions. And I mean,
Yes.
I don't know how kind of chronologically we can sort of work through the things that you're doing, but obviously there's a lot going on, but sort of look at some of the highlights of it.
Yeah, for sure. So, it's worth saying as well, like, what I love about the music hierarchy is that you're looping things essentially, but and what you can't really do with the actor mixer, if you have a music track looping, I mean, you can sort of fake it in various ways, but once you get to the loop point where I'm going to loop back to the beginning, it will play out the tail of the audio file.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll get that reverb tail at the end, if you like.
Yeah, based on the sort of
superimposed.
exit and
it's just
entry
like
rules.
really neat loops, which is really nice. And then this like transparency around how you transition between these layers, which is really cool. So I can just play you, like, as you could probably see from the level. It's almost like one long track, but there's like I've used the music hierarchy in different ways throughout. So we start with this sort of prepared piano layer, and that's like a 16-bar loop sort of thing. And then I'm introducing an additional interlocking rhythm once we go through that first door. And then
Nice.
there's a
So
third
is that
variation of that as well.
Is that combined?
Yes.
So you're
in
not
this
actually
case, it
putting
is.
stems on stems. You're actually just switching the entirety to be a premixed version of that.
Exactly. In this case, it was easy to do that because it's so minimal. I mean, there's just like 3 layers, so you can see that the transition is immediate. So I literally just do a little fade out and fade in of those different layers, and it just creates that very seamless thing going on. And then when we get to the next layer, more sort of substantial, chunky layer, that's slightly different, the transition. You can hear I've sort of used a little magic trick, if you like, in that it's like you're in this state, and then you go through the door into the next section of the game, and you'll hear it triggers this transition segment, and then it launches into the next the layer 4, if you like. But the transition, it actually happens immediately. So it's not, I'm not actually using, because I needed layer 4 to align exactly with the image. So basically this just like covers up this covers
You're
up
fading
a
the
fade
rhythm out, aren't you? Yeah, no, it's great. But, so I always thought, listening to that, wow, that always seems to fall really bang on when the camera's panning, you get those piano chords kick in just at the right time, and that's because it's by design. Yeah, I thought it sounded, it tricked me into feeling like you were using a transition rule that waited for the next bar.
Yes.
But no, it's come to think of it, it's always in the same place, and that's really cool. So this is like, it's cool that you can do stuff like that by waiting for the next bar, but it's a really nice trick. So what you're effectively doing is fading out the rhythm, bringing in a transition sound and giving it just enough time so you've kind of forgotten the rhythm when so it is a bit of an illusion.
It's a magic. It's like what you do with magic tricks. You just distract. It's like I mean, I'll just play it one more time so you could hear that fade out of the initial layer. So that's the initial layer, and now I'm going to the next section. So you can hear it's not a regular, it's not changing the next bar or whatever.
And you know what, like the fact that it's such a syncopated rhythm that is hard to find the one on anyway, obviously. I mean, because I doubled that with little muted guitar at one point, or harmonics for you, didn't I? I'm like, what the hell is this rhythm? And I mean, it loops around on 4/4, but like it is, it's very polyrhythmical. And I suppose that helps in this case because you're kind of like, you've got this kind of all these syncopated notes, so you don't necessarily know
exactly.
If you had something that was hammering the one home on every bar, then you might hear the jarring thing. But it's really cool that afforded you to be able to kind of do that.
It's like creating this musical sense of a maze, like and that being in the musical DNA of the track as well, I think.
Yeah, it's great.
And then just so it gets slightly more complicated as the musical. So this is a bit more when it gets like when the interactions are affecting the music more. So you can see here, for instance, we've got these different layers at play. So if I play like all of those layers, so when I move the position global, which is connected to the dragger, you'll hear how it's changing the musical texture.
So this is in that sort of second or third section. We've got that vertical slider that's moving pieces around in the game, and then we've got this essentially dynamic mixing based on a parameter.
Yeah, and you can see, so I'm basically... it's in a low pass state, so you can't really hear it initially, those rhythmic bells. In fact, I can solo that for you. This one's.
Yeah, nice.
So, and the same with the kind of core track. There's something going on there, I think, as well. Yeah, it's just being low passed is the opposite, basically. And that sort of gets slightly more, I guess, more intricate as time goes on. You get these sections where...
This is after you've pressed the button, right? And then you've switched you've got that synth bass kind of arpeggio now coming in. It's really cool. And it's kind of using like many different approaches with this, because states control the progression through the track in many ways, but parameters, which are more like floating point values between 0 and 1, are obviously controlling like dynamic mixing elements. And so all we really have in the game is events, states, and parameters. And so this is kind of using all of those in different ways to just kind of like create sort of fun, musically playful interactions.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and also like to help with mixing, like you can see when you enter the scene, that like at the very start of the scene, you have this where is it? Is this it? Let me find it. Yeah, this little pad that when you enter the scene, even things like adding a global parameter to this, so that when you're moving the rotator, you're giving space for the rotator sound to shine in the mix. So
a really nice dynamic mixing trick there. So this is because you've on that first rotator in the first chunk of the level, there's a really elaborate kind of like granular sound happening, and the existing drone that's happening in the background just like ducking that out the way only as you interact with that is a really nice touch. As you say, it's just like, it's effectively side chaining but not side chaining. It's a dynamic mix based on a player's interaction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I guess one more thing to point out maybe with this music hierarchy. So on that final section, when the puzzle gets quite hard and you had the cellos, sort of those cello stabs, and it switches up a bit. This is layer 8. So this is, you can hear, this is like all of the layers. This is like what you have at the very end when you've stepped on, I think, the second or the last button. But this time, instead of using the RTCP sort of parameter things, I'm using states to control when these are opening. So, so these you can see if I look at like the one of the high ticking layers, I've got a state. So when I've stepped on triangle left button, when that's activated, the volume's at 0, so you can hear it, and when it's not activated, it's you can't hear it. It's at minus 108 dB.
Mm-hmm.
So these are like all ticking along, but you're just like revealing them as you trigger them, basically.
Yeah. And this is all, if you think of the horizontal or vertical approaches to interactive music, which I always forget which is which, but I mean, horizontal I think is when you've maybe got a time-based transition rule that, like stuff like waiting for a bar and then moving to the next part of a track. Obviously vertical is more like stems essentially, like of a track. And I think you've kind of done all of those in some form. And
it's true, yeah. I think the nature like of the track, like as musically, just really allowed for that because it was so built from those. It's such a layer-based sort of track.
Yeah.
Like so simple. I mean, you can see like really risky stuff here. Like it's all 120, like 4/4. But it's like because it's and because you have this allows you to tempo sync everything. This hierarchy. Although you can see I haven't always used that with the transitions. I'm not always changing on the beat to a new sectional, but the sort of rhythmic nature of it and the very sort of linear elements make it work well here. I don't know if it's worth having a really quick look at some of the sound design as well.
Yeah, let's have a look at a few bits.
So you'll notice as well, like in the different rooms, if you like, we've got these little vinyl loops. These are little loops that I think you made for MV2.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I think there's like I found a really cool like vinyl static generator where you can, it just kind of, it gives you different kind of levels of noise and pops and stuff like that. And I made a bunch of those and recorded some stuff and made a bit of a library of just lo-fi vinyl noise. But it's really cool. Again, I would have maybe assumed that that stuff was again baked into the music, which it could have been, but the subtlest of subtle, so you're actually cycling through different types of vinyl static as you progress to different sections of the level, which is really nice.
It just needs to like feel fresh, I think, and it's so subtle, but like I think for those audio nerds out there, you might notice that sort of thing. I don't know, but and then, thinking about the nav ping. So, Todd, I think you were doing that video on nav pings.
Being in tune.
Yeah. So it's like giving that identity to this level. I like experimented with a bunch of different ideas. This was, I think, an initial idea. I wonder if... So I was going to have this every time you clicked, basically, in the space. Nice. It was quite fun. I don't know why I didn't use that, but never mind. This was like a wonky piano, which I quite liked. Actually, because we obviously got the piano in the track, so it would have been quite nice. But I settled on this, I think, in the end, and this has just got like a nice little vinyl crackle for every click. So it's the default. The rest of it's default, but it gives it that lo-fi quality.
Yeah, and I would imagine, not to explain your thinking there, but like you say, it's just the other ones are really cool, but what's good about this one is that it has some semblance to the other nav pings, but it also, the piano stuff would have just got lost, right, with the piano that's in the track. And it's interesting when you're experimenting about this stuff, you sort of, the line between like how much you tie in what you're doing contextually, because you want things to feel like fused together and the holistically kind of like everything works in harmony, but you also want this contrast and you want sounds to have their place in the mix. But yeah, I mean, the point about like common sounds like nav ping and the handles retracting on the interactions and buttons, like those are standardized across sections of the game. And initially I was kind of keen to do what I did in Monument Valley 2 with this game of trying to keep those standardized and only subverting them in select places. But it's kind of cool that you pushed more into subverting them more often, and it's part of what is different about the sound of this game. And you've almost got the license to do that. You know, if you give the player that, which we do, give them a sort of 10-minute period where those common elements are uniform, then by this point in the game, certainly we can start playing with it and doing different cool stuff, which is great.
For sure, it felt like it would be a missed opportunity, if in a way, like in my mind, because it was so visually different. So like these, just to show you the footstep sounds. Weighted towards the left a bit, but the right.
Yeah.
But so
nice.
they're actually so like as part of this this whole level, like I recorded so much sort of papery texture. I mean, you can just hear, and a lot of this I just added sort of cassette-y, tapey plugins to.
Nice and lo-fi.
But the footsteps are actually a mixture of snow footsteps from MB2, so legacy footsteps.
Nice.
Plus some like paper.
Great.
So it's like, they're in that random container, so it's you don't notice. It's like snow, paper, snow. They all just sort of smudge together. But yeah, I recorded
and they work
so
really
much.
well. I think what's nice about the way you've mixed them is that they are actually like, the lo-fi-ness of them means that there's actually not a lot of, you think of papery sounds are having quite a lot of top end crackle, but they're quite sort of low passed or very notchy in the middle. So again, it's that mixed thing which I do a lot with interaction things, of just like actually having very narrow frequency bands and just trying to find room somewhere in the mix where these things can sit really comfortably.
Yeah, it's hard because it's actually, it's my tax return.
Don't show that on public video.
But you can story HMRC. But yeah, it's actually
ASMR
quite hard to
tax
record
return paper videos.
Yeah, the new phase of ASMR. But yeah, it's hard to actually record because of that sort of the quite violent low end also as well you can get from them. But
absolutely, well, I worked on the Tearaway games, which was all paper, literally. So we became like masters at like extracting certain sounds from paper. And how to record them, and it's often not what you think.
What's the perfect paper, Todd?
Yeah.
Toilet? Crepe. I mean, there's some amazing different kinds of paper, but anyway, I can imagine that's like all these like all the stairs and everything, they had like their own little papery sounds. I'll just find a couple to show you, but like things like this. You know,
Lovely.
you can or like when the draggers sort of extract or unfurl or
again, on that first example, just hearing that little bit of tonality that's fused into that, which is obviously sympathetic to the track and the key of everything.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Zoom's telling us we're running out of time, but maybe if we got 2 minutes just to show you the interactions.
Definitely.
Yes, so some of these, so like we were saying, the expand and retract sounds of these handles slightly different, and then with a lot of these rotators having a different sound for the forwards and backwards, so they're within like a switch container, and then you can hear, and these are in what do you call them, the sequence containers, and gosh, I can see this zoom thing, which I to try and move out the way. So this one will play out on when you're in a forward state, and then when you're in a backward state.
Oh, it's reversing it. Lovely, yeah. Yeah, I'd not noticed that either, but it's very, it's almost fun. It's so intuitive, and it just works so well that you just take it for granted. Yeah, because we have basically a set direction switch, which you can see on your screen now over on the right as part of the way these movers are set up.
You can hear it reversing.
Lovely.
Yes, this little switch here. Yeah, so that's quite a fun little touch.
Great.
And then maybe just finally showing you a couple of the draggers in that sort of middle section. So on these draggers we've got some pretty bonkers bonkers ones. But actually, because often the distance was so short for dragging, it meant that like even if you had this quite long sort of looping sort of segment, you would only hear like a tiny bit. So it's almost like just behaves like a glitch when it's like a short drag. But these have like let me just find these are all sort of pitch affected, and again forwards and backwards.
Lovely. So that's an octave there.
Yeah, quite fiddly some of these, but I mean it's just behaving in a satisfying way. So if you're dragging it down, you know, it's moving up and down. And these have all got that papery layer baked into some of these as well, and
and all using essentially textural layers that are sort of cued from the sounds that are in the original composition as well. With
totally. This is true.
Again, seeing as this, even the sound design is an extension of deconstructing the essence of that track and just making it interactive in every way possible, essentially.
Yeah, that's a lovely point. Yeah, definitely. And vice versa. Like I remember after finishing this level and then working on the soundtrack stuff, like reintegrating some of that stuff into the track. Yeah,
for
sure. Some of those papery discoveries as well. Yeah.
It's so cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm conscious of our Zoom time limit, but thanks so much for showing me through that for the first time, actually, because you know this stuff we're all working in the same Wwise project, and such is the way we worked on the project that we just sort of totally trusted, I guess, each other in terms of like going to town on these different levels and not always necessarily having the time to see the full kind of under the hood of how it's put together. So it's kind of cool for me to see that in this level of detail. Hopefully that's really interesting to anybody watching, and as I said on the other ones as well, if anybody has any specific questions or stuff for Lucie about how this is set up, then people can put those in the comments and stuff as well, and I'm sure we'll get back to you.
Yes, and I don't have much of a YouTube at all, but if you want to follow my YouTube, you're welcome. It's pretty non-existent, but I'm working on it.
Well, me too, hence these videos.
I don't know. But
yeah, I mean, there's anyone who's coming here for solo guitar content, which is all my might be slightly disappointed by us poking around Wwise interactive music hierarchy, but I think it's cool.
But actually, and that made me think as well. One thing I would say for like composers out there watching this who aren't necessarily in-game audio, but like thinking about it, like this sort of stuff, it's so juicy, like musically to get involved with, because it's like the creme de la creme of musical thinking in a way, because you're just it's like doing a puzzle in your head the whole day, but a musical puzzle, and
it's using every part of your skill set. I always find if you like playing with plugins and tweaking things, then this is just like taking that to level 10 really, because you have all the stuff you have of just making music, but then you have all these different ways of arranging it in structures so you can affect the behavior based on the game. And I agree, I mean, I love it. It's super juicy, and it's not for everyone, because some people just like to make music and send WAVs, but I'm so glad on this project that you embrace this as much, you know, essentially in this specific case more than I have on these games, because it's like, you have to have that almost curious love of like getting deep into these systems and like follow that passion as much as anything else, you know. And it's all none of it's at the expense of like just doing technical things for technical sake, which I'm really adamant always about. And you just naturally follow the same thing. It's like what hopefully the result is with this is that it's just a really cool it's just a really cool level that people can play with this musical toy.
No, totally. Well, thanks, Todd.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. I think my video is just overheated, so I'll be invisible for this last bit.
Great.
But yeah, thanks so much for taking us through it. And yeah, I will catch you soon.
Catch you soon.